So we're going to look at stealth positioning. This is formerly known as iFit, and we're rebranding it as stealth positioning for a couple of different reasons, but we'll jump in here. So we're going to look at a few different topics here. We're going to look at a little bit of an overview of what makes it a little bit unique, what makes this line unique, and then we're going to kind of break it up in between the sections of the body that these supports actually deal with. So we'll get into it. First thing we're going to start looking at here is what makes it unique. So the idea with stealth positioning line is this is our soft goods line at Stealth, and it's really a product of Stealth taking all of the products that we've worked with over the years and making some tweaks and adjustments and changes here and there to improve function, to improve manufacturability, things like that. So the goal was really to fill that gap between the low cost but poor quality items and then that really high cost but great quality item. When iFit first launched, there was not a middle ground. It was either get something very, very cheap that's not going to last very long, or pay quite a bit and you're going to have decent quality. So we wanted that middle ground. We're being compared to that higher quality stuff, which will take all day long though. So that's where this goes. The goal is a good quality at a reasonable price. So part of what makes this line unique is the material that we use. We have two different versions of a proprietary material that's only used in this stealth positioning line. We kind of divide it up between a dynamic version, which is going to have a little bit of stretch, and a structured version, which is going to be more rigid and structured, but both still breathe very well and do allow that air to circulate and keep that customer cooler and drier. So getting into the actual items themselves, we're going to start with the posture support, with the pelvic supports. And pelvic supports are pretty important for a pretty wide range of reasons. But when you boil it all down, neutral pelvis position is going to impact everything else, and that's what we use these anterior pelvic supports for, is that neutral pelvic position. So stealth positioning line is going to include 2-point and 4-point pelvic belts. The 2-point are exactly what they sound like. You're going to have 2 attachment points to the chair. It's going to be adequate most of the time. And then you get your 4-point pelvic belt, which is going to give you a little bit more control over that pelvis, and give you a little bit more fine-tune capabilities of the pelvic belt placement. On that 4-point, your primary belt is anchored, and the idea there is the secondary belt prevents migration of that primary. So breezing over this really quickly, attachment angles do different things for us, right? So this is one thing we always want to pay attention to. The 4 most common would be your 30-degree. So 30-degree attachment angle would really help prevent anterior pelvic tilt. You lay it across the front of your pelvis over the ASIS, and that'll really help control that anterior pelvic tilt, but it does mean your pelvis can rotate under, so it would actually allow for posterior pelvic tilt fairly easily. 45-degree is the most common mount. It's easiest to do. It's kind of your default position. Works fine for most end users, and it's easiest to mount that way, right? But it still allows your pelvis to slide under into a posterior tilt. And then when you get into your 60 degrees, that's when you start to prevent or limit that posterior pelvic tilt. When you get into your 90 degrees, that's really going to help with more of a pelvic obliquity and things like that. 90 degrees, of course, is a pretty bad idea if somebody has a dislocated hip or anything like that. When we get into webbing sizes, we're going to use a couple of different webbing sizes. It's a pretty important factor to consider. it needs to be the correct size to provide that targeted contact with the appropriate amount of pressure. If you go too narrow for a customer, you're going to increase that pressure over that body part. Too wide means your pelvic position is not maintained. It's just going to span that area and not actually control the hip. So along that same line, though, the padding sizes are going to be offered in multiple sizes as well. So each pad is going to have an ergonomic contour to it, and the idea here is we just want better pressure distribution across the board with those pads. The buckle is another option you can choose. The buckle, it's got to be something appropriate for that user and their caregiver and team, right? So right now we're going to have two buckle options. We're going to have a push button and a side release, and a couple other options to add to the push button. So getting into these 2-point belts, Stealth's going to offer a 2-point and single pull in both padded and non-padded. So the non-padded version is mainly for here in the US market. We have a couple of pockets in the US that can bill for the belt and the pad separate, and they get more reimbursement dollars back at the end of the day. So that's why that's the main, almost the sole reason we have those non-padded belts. But the pads are sold separately for those padded belt or non-padded belts. We do also have a single pull available in a push button or side release. And your single pull, the idea here is it's pretty user friendly. You only have one thing to deal with, but it could also help to derotate a flexible rotation. Just pull it on the forward side, right? Your dual pull is going to be available in your push button and side release as well. And this one's sometimes a little bit more caregiver friendly. It kind of avoids always tightening over one side if it's not needed over that one side. So you get a little bit more equal distribution there. And then your rear pull is one that's going to be coming in January. So rear pull is really designed for more high tone or flexible rotation situations. So all of our pelvic belts, though, are going to use a flat anchor on the ends. And the idea with that flat mount is it's going to help maintain your mounting angle. We want more surface contact there with the chair frame. That way there's less likelihood of the attachment point rotating and messing with your attachment angle. So when you add it all up, we're going to have 35 different 2-point belts to choose from. So just note that side release is not available in the 1-inch webbing, so small and extra small. But everything else, you've got a push button and a side release version. When we get into a retractable belt, this one was really designed mainly for your power chairs. It can be used on a manual chair as well, but the idea is really developed for a power chair. It's going to retract the same way as a car seat or seat belt would. And the idea here is it allows that belt to stay within reach for the end user. And when it's not in use, it's not dangling on the ground, getting caught up in wheels and things like that. So it's going to mount directly to your track or frame. It's only going to come in one length. And right now, when you order it from us, it's going to come with a quantum track nut and bolt. We could sub it out and put it on a different chair, but it was mainly intended for the quantums. So that's the hardware that it comes with. So only one option to choose from there. Keep it pretty straightforward and simple for you. But then that takes us into our 4-point belt options. So as far as 4-point belts go, we're going to have two versions. We're going to have a V contour and a linear version. So in the V contour is going to provide a padded junction between the primary and secondary belts. The nice thing here is it's going to distribute that pressure a lot better and actually allow some padding over the secondary belt. So we're talking a padding down here that goes over both the top and bottom belts. And it's great, it's more padded. The drawback is that means your secondary belt is a little bit more fixed in its placement. So that's the give and take, is you get more padding, but it's less fine-tunable on its placement. All the V contours are only going to be available in single pull and push buttons only. When we get into the linear style is going to use a D-ring for your secondary belt to attach to. That means you get a little bit more precise placement of it versus the V contour. And it's going to be available in a single pull push button or a rear pull in both side release and push button. And that rear pull is another one that's coming in January. So we're going to have a lot to choose from here in 4-point belts. And just note that there is no extra large 4-point belt. There is an extra large 2-point, but no 4-point and extra large. We are still finalizing part numbers. I think they're working on them as we speak. So I don't have part numbers for your rear pulls just yet. I'll get that added in as soon as I find them. So to help accommodate a wider range of user needs, we also included a few accessories here. So we've got a buckle cover. The idea there is to prevent that unwanted or unintended release. And then we've got a cane clamp and a cinch mount. So the cane clamp is just going to give you a mounting point on a cane or a tube. So if you want to use one of our belts on a manual chair, for example, you'll have that option. And then the cinch mount is pretty straightforward mount. You weave through, so feed it in the top and around the little bar, back out the top again. Once you close it, it won't move. It's the cinch mount is really better for those instances when you're going to have to frequently readjust the length of your belt. So say maybe you're going from summer to winter climate and you're now wearing a coat and thicker clothing. You're going to want to loosen that belt some, right? So that gives you an easy way to do it without breaking out the tools. So a few different options here. Buckle cover is only going to be in a 1 inch and 1.5 inch. We don't do a 2-inch push button. Your cane clamp kit is just one size, fits most. It's an inch or it's an inch and a 7/8 version in that one kit. And then your cinch mount is going to be for each size of webbing we have. So 1 inch, 1.5 inch, and a 2-inch. Moving along, we come up to posture supports. So stealth anterior posture supports are really going to provide that anterior contact for the trunk, and it's going to do that more so than some of the other trunk support options, like your laterals, things like that. The dynamic versions are going to allow for more movement than the structured, and that can in turn kind of extend the functional reach among other benefits. So we're going to offer them in multiple styles to fit each user's needs, and they're ideal for maintaining that upright posture and stability as well. So keeping that client in contact with the back is another big thing they do. Some of the things that make us unique, though, would be we've got some breathable materials, those proprietary materials we're using. The quality of the workmanship is, like I said, being compared to some of the best stuff out there right now, and we're happy with that. We do have some unique design elements, and some of the hardwares we include too. So like the raised belt anchors, those on all of our anterior posture supports, those raised belt anchors are used so that you can adjust the webbing on the fly, and you don't need to use tools to loosen that up. It sounds like a little thing, but if you've got the technician in the room that's adjusting that belt all day, every day, every stop they make, that's kind of a big deal. They're offered in a pretty wide range of sizes, and the other nice thing here with all of our belt lines is it's going to be washable too. So you can machine wash these 40 degrees Celsius and just air dry them. For your anterior posture supports, we're going to start with the classic style here. The classic style posture support is going to include that large padded surface that's available in 3 styles. You're going to have your standard, a vinyl face, and a zipper front face. Each one's going to use the same shape that we have here in the picture. And all of them are going to be offered in structured or dynamic versions. And note, all of them does include a dynamic vinyl face. So we'll talk about that in just a minute, though. The contoured style is a little, it's the same idea as your classic style, but this version is used to provide that anterior posture support over the sternum with a little bit less contact than the classic. So the design kind of lends itself to being a better fit for those users with the G-tube or females. So you can have two styles in this one, standard like you have pictured, or a vinyl face. We don't have a zippered front face. There's just not enough real estate to get a zipper in there, especially when you get down to the smaller sizes. Both of them, again, are structured or dynamic material. So on the vinyl, Stealth does use a pretty unique process to get the vinyl on this material. So we attach it directly to the proprietary material. It's unlike some of the other companies out there, we do not just take a sheet of naga hide and stamp out the shape that we're looking for. So what it means, though, is we still get our posture support in a vinyl face, but retain most of the properties of that proprietary material that we're using. So you're going to lose a little bit of breathability, but say the dynamic capabilities are still going to be present, maybe not to the same extent, but you still retain most of the properties. The zipper front is something else we're doing that is slightly unique right now. Everybody else is moving to a zipper that's enclosed in an envelope, right? So the zipper's covered once it's zipped. The idea there is it's going to keep the food and the debris away from the teeth in the zipper. In reality, what happens is it traps the food and debris in with the zipper, and then the zipper can't work, or the zipper doesn't function anymore, and it's extremely difficult to clean because now it's all covered up and trapped, right? So we purposefully left ours exposed, so if food and debris does get on it, you can still get to it and clean it and still be able to use the zipper. So that's why we keep ours open. But when you add them all up, we've got 50 different variations of posture supports to choose from. So we've got a pretty wide span of ranges here on posture supports. When you get into the chest strap is going to provide an anterior posture support that does not cross the shoulders. So they're really designed to prevent that forward movement more than anything else. They don't really prevent flexion above the strap like our other posture supports could. The dynamic version does allow for some movement, which is pretty cool because if you have that customer who needs to reach, it will let them reach forward, but it also assists them in that return. So it's also great for the clients who really require minimal anterior support to prevent that forward movement, but they may also need it to maintain that upright position while they're transporting, right? So if I'm in my chair in a vehicle, but I keep slouching forward in the vehicle, a chest strap's great at holding them upright just while they're driving. So we're going to have two versions of a chest strap. We're going to have a belt anchor style, and that one's going to attach to your backrest and have two side releases to release and come off when you're transferring in and out. The Velcro style attaches the same way. It's going to have that raised belt anchor that goes somewhere on the backrest or back of the frame, and it just comes around the front and Velcros on. So you have two pads here instead of one. One side is the hook side, one's the loop side. On the front one, you're going to have a thumb loop. It's kind of hard to make out in the picture here, but you do have that thumb loop, so you can hook in and open that chest strap if you are the end user using it in the chair, right? So we've got extra small up to an extra large, so 5 sizes in each version. When we get into shoulder straps, we're going to have two styles. So we're going to have a backpack strap and an H harness. So the backpack strap is used more for that aggressive shoulder retraction, while the H harness is going to have wider pads and the strap in the front. So the wider pads increase that surface area to spread the load a little bit more, and help have better contact, while that horizontal is going to help maintain the position of those pads. Both of them are going to be structured material only, and we really want that rigid structured support there in that application. So 4 sizes a piece here, and keep in mind that up until this point, we're bouncing back and forth. For the most part, everything's had an extra large. We're down to missing that extra large again. When we move on, still supporting the shoulders, we've got Y straps. So Y straps are really designed to derotate the trunk, but they could be used as shoulder retractors as well. So the big thing here with Y straps is getting the line of pull and angle of pull correct and in the right place on that shoulder joint. If it's not right, you're not going to have success with the Y strap. So that's the biggest key there. The Y straps were going to come in 2 versions. The shape and everything is going to be identical. It's just going to be a dynamic or a structured version. So that gives us 6 different Y straps to choose from. They are sold in singles. So if you want to use them as shoulder retractors, you do need to order 2. Moving along, we're going to get into the lower extremities. So first one we're going to talk about is a new one that's coming in January as well. So this one's going to be a leg harness. So the leg harness is going to be made with dynamic material. It's going to attach to the rear of your frame. It's going to wrap up and over your leg, come back under medially to attach up into the front of the frame again. So the idea here is it wraps around the leg, and it's great for those end users who slide forward in their chair, and it's going to help hold them back. So somebody who may go into a lot of extensor tone to the point their bottom comes off the seat, this is a good idea for them as well. It could be used with or without a pelvic belt. So if you have something preventing the use of a pelvic belt, you could use it, but it's not going to control the pelvis itself. So if you have something preventing pelvic belts, but they do not need control of the pelvis, you're good there. 3 sizes to choose from, and they're all sold in singles. We're going to use a flat belt anchor here again, and the nice thing here is the direction that you pull on it actually pulls the user back into it. So that D-ring in the middle of the pad there, if you start pulling on that, when it's on the customer, you're actually pulling back. So pretty cool straps there. Moving down, we get into calf supports. So we're going to introduce 2 versions of calf supports in January, and the idea here is they're most often going to be used to prevent that excessive knee flexion, but sometimes prevent knee extension as well. So the main goal, really, we want to keep those feet properly placed over your foot plates. Your calf strap version is going to be a little bit shorter in its overall profile, while the calf panel is going to give you that larger contact area and spread that load a little bit wider, right? So they're both easily attached. They just wrap around the leg rests and Velcro back onto themselves. They're going to be made from the same proprietary material that we use in everything else as well. So they are going to be offered in a dynamic and structured version. So 3 sizes a piece, 3 sizes a piece in the calf strap. The calf panel will have 4 sizes. Moving down to the foot and ankle, as far as superior foot supports go, we're going to have the ankle positioner and the fixed ankle support and full foot positioning system. So these are all designed to do basically the same thing in different ways. So the end goal is to maintain that foot placement over the foot plate, as well as limit knee extension or flexion, right? So again, control that foot, keep it over the foot plate in the proper position. So these are going to allow the foot to move a little bit to some degree, And the nice thing here is they can be worn with or without shoes, and they're pretty discreet, so they tuck in under most pant legs pretty easily. So you're not gonna have a support grabbing your foot and being apparent that it's doing that. So the fixed ankle supports, the first one is going to be available in 2 different closure styles, a side release and a Velcro closure. So that Velcro is one more that's coming in January. To go along with that in January would be the footman's loop. So that's the bracket that you screw onto your foot plate that actually holds this system onto your foot plate. So prior to January of 2020, if you order one of these from Stealth, you've got to either cut holes in your foot plate or hope that your foot plate already has the appropriate holes. So this will be coming in January 2020. And it's just one footman's loop that fits all the webbing sizes. So your ankle positioning system is going to use an ankle support plus an ABS foot plate. So this is really intended so that the support can be mounted to an OEM foot plate, but still allow some rotation, so you can reorient the placement of that ankle positioner a little easier in that way. The full foot positioning system is going to add a toe strap to that ankle positioning system. So they're identical. It's just the full foot positioner uses an extra toe strap. Both are going to be dynamic materials only, and these are both going to include a heel loop. So that's one way they're different than the previous ankle system. So these two use that heel loop, and there's a lot of therapists that really do like that heel loop. It really helps you control the rear side a lot easier, a lot better, more effectively. So keep in mind too that the shape of this material or these ankle systems is slightly different than the previous. So if you look at the pictures here, that's a pretty accurate, we'll say the top right corner, it's a pretty accurate representation of, let's see right here, of the shape if you were to lay it out flat. If we come back one, we've got this shape here, and that shape is slightly different, right? So the shapes are slightly different. I honestly don't know why they're different, but they are, so just keep that in mind. There's not a difference in how they work. Essentially, the main difference in function here is going to be that heel loop. So a lot of options to choose from here. Footman's loop is going to be the same part number across the board. It's really only going to be used with that fixed ankle support though in the side release or Velcro option. And we can start doing some parts and pieces too. So we can do replacement ankle supports, toe straps, or base plates on all of these. So if you do have one that's out in the field for a couple of years and you have issues, we can replace parts and pieces without having to do an entire whole system again. Moving along, we do toe straps as well. So those toe straps, the idea here is it's really going to maintain the position of the forefoot and hopefully foot by extension. They're most often going to be used alongside some other system, but may be adequate when it's just minimal requirements here. So we're going to offer it in a padded and Velcro version. So the padded strap is the same strap that the ankle support systems are going to use, or sorry, the full foot positioning system. So padded, we're going to have 3 different sizes. In the hook and loop version, that one is going to be one size fits most. So it's going to be a 1-inch Velcro by 12 inches long. When we get into shoe holders, the Stealth positioning shoe holders are unique to Stealth. These are going to be ideal for maintaining that correct positioning over the foot plate. And the Stealth shoe holder uses a higher lateral wall. And the idea there is we wanted to maintain position of the foot and not just the shoe, right? We didn't want to just position the sole of the shoe and let the foot walk around inside so much. So it's going to be a higher lateral wall. And that being the case, that means there's a large Achilles cutout on the backside. So if you do have to plantar flex your foot plates, you have a notch in the back of the shoe holder so you don't run into any contact there. we're going to have we do have a padded insert available. So if you do use it without shoes, you do have a pad that we can put in there. And the toe straps on these are different than the others. They mount to the sides. They don't wrap all the way around underneath like the other ones do. The nice thing with that is a lot of the other shoe holders out there in the market right now, that toe strap goes underneath the whole shoe holder on both the top and front or back and front side. And problem with that is it goes directly under the mounting hole as well. So that's kind of a hassle to deal with. It also means you can't get a very secure mount in some cases. So ours attaches to the sides rather than wrap all the way underneath. So that is our shoe holder. You can part this out. So you can do the shoe holder itself, just a plastic. You can do toe straps or the pad as well. So if you, again, same idea, if you've had this out in the field for a little bit and you have some issues, maybe need to replace that pad or a couple of the straps, you can do that without having to buy an entire new shoe holder. I also kind of want to point out here, the large is where we stop at. I wear a men's size 12 in the US, and my US size 12 fits in there pretty snug, but I can fit it in there. If I'm wearing a large like black basketball shoe or something like that, it's going to be tough. It probably won't fit, but a regular like dress shoe fits in there just fine in a pretty big size. So the large does get some big feet in it, right? So that is it on stealth positioning. So feel free to contact me if you got any concerns, questions, comments, anything like that. And I'll address it for you as quick as I can. I'll get this presentation sent out to you guys as quick as I can. I'd like to add in those missing part numbers before I do send it out, but we'll get it out to you. And other than that, appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next time.